I am on my way to pick up John Williams. He and I are going to Paris Mountain today, and I've never been there before, but it looks lovely. So yeah, next time you see me, I will be in the car with John and Minnie. So I'm in the car here with my friend John, and little Minnie is down there. You'll be able to see her later. I'll film her. And we're going for a day out, aren't we, John?
Yes, Simon. Going out on the day, very nice. Simon is it?
Yeah, we're going to Paris Mountain. I'm going to go and collect some pigment. And when I get it back home, I'm going to grind it up, turn it into paint. But it's going to be a nice walk and a nice sunny day out for me and John, and little Minnie going to enjoy it. So that's what we're doing today. So I'll be showing you Paris Mountain
Shortly.
Yeah. When we got there, I was shocked with how beautiful it was. I mean, it was so stunning. The heather was really bright and it was such a nice day. It was incredible. I mean, this was earlier in the year, so to be honest, the weather really did help. The date that we did this was 31st of July. So it was, just peak summer. It was really hot, really nice, perfect day. John really enjoyed it. Minnie was loving the walk as well. It was really nice, and it was an incredible place. Now, that camera is not really doing it justice, because whenever I was trying to show the amazing landscape, it wasn't showing the richness of the colours that you could see at Paris Mountain. You could really see a lot of the different tones and colours in the land, and I found that because of how the camera works on my phone, when I would point the camera upward so you'd get the sky as well as the land would start looking a bit more saturated, and you could see truer colours to what you'd see in real life. But when I would point the camera down into this kind of valley of the mining area, you wouldn't be able to see that, and instead it would become a lot grayer, and all of the colours would look very washed out from the land, and it just wasn't true. What I was looking at was really rich and incredible to look at. So the job that I had to do was then to go and take my little trowel and pigment sacks and go and try to dig out some pigment from the ground, and it looked really rich blue, yellow and red in person, and when you remove it from the landscape it starts to look a lot duller, but I'm sure that that's just a product of the relation between the colours in the environment. It looks truer when you're actually there than when you take them away. But yeah, we really enjoyed it. It was a great day. We had such a good laugh, and we've talked about it since. John really enjoyed that day out that we had, and I'd like to go on more drives with him again, because it was a lot of fun, and it was a long trip, but him and Minnie really enjoyed it, and it was just great fun all around. The next job I had to do was to grind up the pigment. So this meant that the jars that I'd put the pigment in would then have the yellow, the blue, the red pigment from the ground in them, and I would put those into a mortar and use a pestle. Is that the right way around? I think it is, to grind it up and try and get it down to a fine powder if I could. And there were still little bits of kind of stony like gravelly bits. I should have done a better job really. It wasn't as fine a powder as I should have made it, but at this time in the year it was quite hot weather, so I think I was just getting a bit exhausted, and it tired me out too much to keep grinding this down. But it was nice to have little tubs of yellow, blue and red pigment, and I was excited at the prospect of painting with this stuff. But what I needed next, because egg tempera is only partly the pigment, so what I really needed was an egg, and what better place to get an egg than a farm. Smaller ones, 175 for... Ooh, and there's a white one as well. Okay, I'm going to go for this one. £1.75. So... what a lovely little egg shed. So now that I had my set of eggs, my carton of eggs I should say, I was ready to start processing this pigment and to get started. But first I had to really get everything set up, so I have a little bowl there to put my egg yolk in, paper towel, and I'll show you what that's for, and then just to pick which egg. I think this one looks like a nice size egg. You don't need anything massive, you don't need loads of yolk, you just don't need any egg white. So the whole idea is that you remove the yolk from the egg white, and that's what you're using is the yolk. So I'm going to use a tub here to catch the egg white, and basically what you do is once you carefully crack open the egg, you then just scoop the yolk from one side of the eggshell to the other, and the white all goes out into the tub, and then you pour the yolk onto a paper towel, because you need to get rid of any of that white from the top. Then you pierce the yolk sac, you tip out the yolk into the bowl, holding the sac, and then you put the egg sac into the or the yolk sac I should say, into your tub there, and that is your medium. That's what you're using to paint with. The water that you use for egg tempera is just to clean your brushes. So the next step is to take your pigment, and I carefully as I could tipped the pigment into these little wells in my palette, little cheap plastic palette, and I put the spaces in between each one because I really don't know how messy this is going to be, so I left a space between each of the wells. And this is the natural pigment palette that I've made, and I'm excited to use it. I know the blue looks grey, so part of my concern is that if this doesn't work, I need a backup plan. And the truth is, I still have my original palette from when I first did egg tempera painting in university, and here it is. This is synthetic pigment that one of the students kindly provided to us, because she was the one who taught us this. The tutors didn't teach us how to do egg tempera painting. The tutors there barely taught us anything. So this was the pigment that she provided to us, and I'm going to use that just in case. It's going to be a backup anyway, just in case I need to use it. But I don't have a white on my palette, so what I need to do now is take this. This is lime offcut from limestone. It's non-toxic, so you don't have to worry about it. Limestone is toxic, you have to be very careful, but lime offcut isn't. And it's an off-white, it's not a really pure white, but it's lovely. It's almost like a chalk or a soft pastel. It's really nice. So there's enough to put in both of the wells on either side, so that's what I do. And I now have my blue, yellow, red and white. So here we go, it is time to start painting with egg tempera. Exciting. This is the image that I'm going to be using as well. So this is the reference image of John and Minnie. So that's going to be my reference. All right, let's get started. Okay, welcome to the 100 Day Art Challenge. This video is number 100 of 100. We have made it. Here it is. When I started this, I immediately realized that I hadn't really ground the pigment up enough. It was a lot of little, what looked like little stones in there. Really little kind of crumbs. So it wasn't as dusty as it needed to be. It needed to be really fine dust of the pigment. So that was the first problem I found. The second was that the board was quite textured, and I know it was quite textured, but what I remembered whilst I was painting is that the first time I did this, one of the instructions the student gave us was to sand down the surface of a primed board so that it's smooth, and I didn't do that. I just forgot that was one of the things that you have to do. So there's a tip if you're going to try this out, and I do recommend trying egg tempera. It is really fun to use this. It's the oldest form of painting. It predates the oil painting that you know of, and they used to just use egg tempera straight into the plaster. So the Michelangelo work and all the classic, beautiful Renaissance paintings and Baroque paintings would be, well, actually the Baroque was probably oil, but the Renaissance paintings were egg tempera and just beautiful work. Now I found the green wasn't good enough, so this is where I go into my synthetic pigment. When I tried to mix a green for the grass behind John, it just wasn't doing it for me. So I thought, I've got this for a reason, I've got this backup pigment, so that's what I'm going to use. And I mixed a green, and it's still kind of a grey green, so I'm glad that I did that. And I wanted a yellowy green for closer to him, because that was similar to the reference in a way. Now it wasn't exact on the reference, it wasn't measured especially well, but I was, you know, trying to get any kind of painting out of this became the mission, which sometimes just happens where things become more difficult than you anticipate. But once I started using the synthetic pigment, it was much easier to start to complete the painting, because the struggle at first with how I had poorly ground up my collected pigment really became an obstacle that was hard to overcome initially. So being able to then kind of subsidize the rest of the colors of the image was very helpful. And I am intending on using the natural pigment again. I may need to regrind up some of the bits of the pigment, but maybe not, I don't know, because I don't think that was all of the problem. I think if I had a smoother board, that would have really helped what I was trying to do. And using it with the synthetic pigment, I think, is actually quite nice, because John is in there with the natural pigment and the landscape is the synthetic, and I don't think that's too bad an attempt at painting like this. So I'm quite glad that it's turning out like it is, you know, because it's coming together. I like the grey greens, I like that I've got a yellowy green. It's kind of, you know, describing the landscape well enough, but now it's time to get a sky colour in there, and that's a really grey sky, so that concerned me quite a bit. So I thought I'll use some egg to try and water it down. And I say water it down, using egg yolk to water down pigment isn't the same as using water, but the water is supposed to be just to clean your brush, which I was using. So there we are. I really pushed to try and get the sky in there as light as possible, and it was tricky. I had to use a lot of white to get that in there, but I thought that's fine, that's you know, enough of a sky. And then getting John's shadow in on the pathway, getting the tarmac of this little path that we were walking on, and then just completing and finishing off the piece by getting in a couple of touches on Minnie to make her look like a little dog, like she is. And there we are. This is the painting that I did. Granted, it's a bit of a struggle, it's a bit of a loose style, but I'm really happy that I did this. And for the final of the challenge, this is number 100 of 100 pieces. So there it is. That is the painting that I did, and I'm just glad it's an achievement. Not only 100, but the egg tempera. Now here's a little behind the scenes. This is what actually happened the first time that I tried to do the egg. I didn't have a Tupperware tub, and instead I just realized, oh wait, this is all just going to tip out. And then I did a bad job of tipping the yolk from one side to the other, so it actually broke, and that's, you just can't use it then because it's mixing with the egg white. It's just not usable. So I just had to clean up and call it a day. So there we go. That is the truth. That is the first take of me mixing it. Hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching, and I will see you soon.